Hey pilots, this is Pete with BananaHobby.com. This is the newest airplanes out right now from FMS, and this just got to us here at Banana Hobby. This is very exciting because this is exactly on my level of what I love to do right now as far as progressing as an RC pilot, and it's called 3D flying. FMS has come out with this line of 3 different 3D capable airplanes, and it is the E300, the SBOC 342, and the Yak 54. So these are 3 of the more popular type of 3D aircrafts that is available on the market. And a lot of you may have seen what I do with 3D airplanes. I own a lot of 3D hobby shop airplanes from Extreme Flight and Precision Aerobatics. And this now, we're bringing 3D technology to what's called EPO flex foam, and the build time is almost next to nothing. I actually am very excited about this, and I don't know what's in this box yet. I actually have not tested any of these models. I don't know what size battery, so we're all going to find out about this kind of stuff together as I start opening the box. I can tell you the 3 sizes of this airplane. Basically, it comes in at 1,300 millimeters and at 51.5 or 51.2 inches. So it's right on the same size as my own 51-inch AJ Slick. So I look forward to seeing what kind of performance these things will have. 3D flying is absolutely beautiful. It's almost like a song and dance in the air when you see these airplanes do rolling Harriers and just different types of 3D maneuvers. So let's go ahead and start taking stuff out of the box here. Right now the box, it says on here that it's made out of EPO flex foam for resistance and durability. So let's just go ahead and start taking things out of the box here. Bear with me here. I'm going to go ahead and close my laptop because we don't need that right now. So 51.2 inches is pretty much the same size as my, let's go from this side here, as my 3D hobby shop AJ Slick. And I got a couple of airplanes in that size. Okay. Good looking airplane on the box. Okay, let's go ahead and start cutting the top cover off here. Sweet. So this is the E300. Basically, what I could see from it is it's basically an extra 300. And the color scheme is really nice here. And I can tell you right now, the foam that FMS is using has changed. It is not it's not the dense EPO foam. This is more like the aerosol foam almost. So it's a lot lighter, a lot stronger. More along the lines of performance-oriented wise. I'm going to get the carbon fiber spars here, composite spars cut out here so I can get the tape open. Okay, there we go. Let's go ahead and just get the manual out first because this first review will be a little bit longer because I want to know about this airplane just as much as you do. So the first thing I want to know is what size battery this airplane calls for here, and it looks like it's 760 kV. So I'm thinking it's a 4-cell. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. It is a 4-cell 3300, and motor is 760 kV, 50 amp brushless ESC with 3 amp BEC. So everything looks good. It looks like everything pretty much screws down into place here. So we will jump into a build review right after this here. But let's go ahead and start taking stuff out here because I want to see what this wing looks like. Nice. Yeah, the foam did change, but this is your 1/2 of the main wing, and it's extremely light, but it's very, very dense as well. So you know that the performance will be there, and the servos are pre-installed, pre-painted. We do have to install the control horns, and I could see there are rectangular composite carbon fiber for the ailerons as well to keep it rigid. So that is really good. And the wing tube for the wing spar is ready to go. Let's go ahead and put that aside. That's the left wing, and this is the right wing, and it looks like it bolts together. So we do have one-piece EPO foam hinge. So that's nice there. Let's check the deflection here. Oh yeah, we can have plenty of control throw there. control authority. All right, tail section here. We have the rudder. And the hinges are already pre-hinged in there, so I guess we're just going to have to glue it in there. Awesome. Okay, this is the tail section. The tail section goes together pretty close to the way that it does on some of the FMS warbirds. So it just plugs in, and it makes it removable, and they are just basically screwed down with a guide rod and another carbon rod, I would say, right there. We'll find out when we start the build. This is a good-looking E300 here. All right, wheel pants, main landing gear with the wheel pants, pre-painted, and the wheel pants are actually, this is what I like too. The wheel pants are actually plastic, so they're not foam, so it'll keep it from denting and, you know, scratching and things like that. So these are all plastic. Oh, it looks nice. I've flown the S-Bach. I actually have an S-Bach 342. It's by Sebart, and it's one of the better flying airplanes here. And this is the composite rod for the main wing, and this is for the tail section. Sweet. All right, this is what everybody's been waiting for here. The fuselage. You know, I've talked a little bit about 3D flying. A lot of people see me or watch 3D flying and don't understand these airplanes standing up on their tail like this and hovering and doing torque rolls and things. And it's just something that, you know, it's really fun. It's a different type of flying, and it's just, it keeps you on your toes. So this is the fuselage. Battery bay is magnetic, comes right off, and your battery, your 3300 4S, will sit right in there. So this is pre-painted. Servos, I'll tell you right now, this is a definite bonus, or a plus, that the servos are surface mounted inside the fuselage. So this will give it the most control authority as far as the length of the push rod has to travel, and it will give us the most control surface throw as well, and efficiency. So this is really nice that they are pre-mounted in your fuselage here for the elevator and for the rudder. Good looking extra. Let's go ahead and set this fuselage down, and let's take a look at the accessories package here. Okay, these are wing fairings. We'll talk about these a little bit later. It looks like it's going to go into the trailing edge. And the propellers are 3-bladed, single blades, and with 3D airplanes, well, actually with any type of airplane, I always suggest that you do balance your propellers, even though, you know, there are 3 blades. If you have 3 blades like this, individual blades, what I found to be working the best, or the easiest way to actually balance these propellers, is if you just go down to your Office Depot or something like that and pick up yourself a mail scale, and it'll give you these the weights in like grams, and then you can actually sand away a little bit when one of them is more heavier than the other. So that's a good way of doing it. Or you can just use the old-fashioned prop balancer. Okay, we have the spinner, and we have our accessories package with a Y-splitter for the ailerons, and then wing bolts, screws, control clevises, push rods, everything in this bag. And one more thing in here. Oh, the Mach exhaust. It's white. If you choose to, I guess you can probably shoot it and paint it black. And that's pretty much the entire contents of the FMS Extra 300, or E300. We're going to start with this first for the build, and then we will move into the Yak 54 and then the S-Bach 342, or maybe the S-Bach 342 first. So let's go ahead and probably just get hands-on now and see how quickly this goes together, and we'll talk a little bit about radio selection and get this thing built for you. Now let's go ahead and get hands-on here with the 51.2-inch E300, Extra 300 made by FMS. We're going to go ahead and refer to the manual and see what the manual tells us to do as far as steps, but I'll probably, like I always do, I'll probably defer from the manual and build it Pete's way once again. Let's go ahead and see what the manual says, though. Okay, I actually like the first steps already. First of all, the foam, this EPO flex foam is super glue safe or CA safe. And I noticed that in the box here we go, in the propeller bag, FMS actually includes a tube of, I'm pretty sure I want to say it's CA. So we're going to go ahead and just use CA here for a lot of the steps. Couple of tips here with the hinges here. With using CA for the hinges, it's saying the first step here, it wants us to go ahead and install the landing gears. So let's go ahead and do that, because that'll actually put this platform, the fuselage, on a platform that it's going to be a little bit easier to work with gears on it, so it doesn't teeter. But this actually sits pretty flat on the bottom there. Let's go ahead and take the contents of this bag out, and we're going to locate the bag for the main gears. And over here, many of you have probably seen this before, my trusty cradle that I've cut from a box here. So we can get this flipped upside down here for you, so we can get the landing gear mounted. Okay, landing gear here, we're just going to insert and press. I'm going to grab the inside of the wing saddle area and then press, so that way that it gives it the most leverage, so it doesn't, you don't dent anything here. Okay, so that looks about good, but it's not all the way down. So honestly, this portion of it, the best way to do this is on your lap, because your lap won't dent the airplane much here. Okay, I want to make sure that I'm not denting the airplane. Okay, the other way we can also do is we can go ahead and use this saddle here and just actually pull that landing gear down into place here with the screws here. Okay, we're going to empty the screws out. It looks like this build is going to be pretty quick because of how the amounts of parts here. It's not many parts. I've gone ahead and just placed the bracket cover here for the main landing gear up on top here, and I'm actually just using the screws to pull the landing gear down into position. I actually did use my lap method, and it did move the landing gear in some, but it's pretty springy, so I think this is the best way to do it. Go ahead and just install the screws here and let the landing gear cover go ahead and just pull the landing gear down into the saddle, into position here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and screw this down with even pressure on each screw here. And that's exactly what it just did. It just pulled it right down into position. So that's a good way of actually doing that. Okay, the extra 300 is now on landing gear. Cool. Okay, the manual says the next step for us will be installing the rudder. So let's go ahead and turn that, and we'll go ahead and install that rudder. This portion we are going to install the rudder here, and I actually have a correction here. This tube here, it looked like CA or super glue. It's actually not. This is the rubber contact cement that the manufacturers include, but this time they put a little nozzle on it to make it more applicable towards smaller areas. So we're going to go ahead and use this. This is fine here. And you want to take note on the rudder. There are 2 screws back here, and that is to lock the steering here into position here later on once we insert the rudder into that position there. So keep that loose so that it's not pinching in the middle. And we're going to go ahead and just apply the rubber cement here onto the hinges here. There's 3, so we'll do just a little bit of glue on each side on all 3. This part here, be careful, because if you use too much glue, it will seep, and you'll ultimately get it into your hinge area, and then your hinges will be stuck. So there is a tip for you there. If you want to do it, is you can put a little drop of oil on the hinge, the pivot portion of the hinges, and that'll keep the glue from actually adhering to that area there. Okay, so we're going to line up the 3 hinges with the fuselage there, and then we're going to line up at the same time the tail wheel with the tail wheel hole there, which we did. We're good, and we're going to go ahead and just press into position here. There we go. We are good to go here. And the gap is going to be just about that. We make sure that we have plenty of rudder deflection, so we will gap it accordingly. So that's good to go there. And then now we're going to tighten these two little Phillips screws into the on the rudder here into the tail wheel, so that the it'll grab that tail wheel and keep it in position here. I actually think you don't need to tighten this down until the rudder actually dries to the fuselage, but we'll go ahead and tighten it down now. Okay, we're going to call that good. We are in position. Rudder's moving, and the rubber contact cement does take a little bit of time to set to actually dry, so just go ahead and leave this alone and come back to it a little bit later. So let's go ahead and see what our next step is. Okay, this part here, actually the manual is pretty on track here. This is probably what I would do. The control surface horn for the rudder is already on there, so we will now go ahead and grab our elevator, the tail horizontal section here, and actually, you know what? The elevator one is already installed too, so we will get the bag here. This bag is labeled aileron. We will empty the contents of this bag and install the control surface horn for the ailerons here. And remember to keep these screws on the same area so you know that these go to the aileron here. Almost lost the ring rod there. Okay, so we have the aileron, and what we will do here is pretty much move that a little. Install the control surface horn. There we go. And then again on the horn here, the backing, one side has a little bit of a lip. That'll be the side that you want to be facing down here, so that keeps the back side of it nice and flush. And let's see, we do have a size difference in screws. So the longer screw will go towards the root side again of the aileron, and then the shorter side will go towards the trailing edge. And we're just going to go ahead and tighten this down. This portion of this build here, I would suggest to use smaller screwdrivers or the included screwdriver, and the reason why is this way you don't over tighten the control surfaces, because it is pulling down into foam, so we don't want to tighten this down too hard that it actually pulls through the foam. Okay, there we go. So that's one surface, control surface horn ready to go. And here's a pointer, here's a tip for you too. Anything with a one-piece EPO foam hinge, I'll always do this a few times just to break it in. I'll loosen it up a little bit. This will reduce the load on your servo and help your servo to work actually more efficiently. You know, you don't have to do this a whole lot, just maybe like 20-25 times, and it's enough. So that's done there. We're going to move on to this wing, install the control surface horn on this wing. There we go. Do the same thing. FMS always supplies us with a couple of extra screws, just in case you lose one or you drop one when you're building it and you can't find it. You have some spares there, so make sure you grab one of those little bags that they come in, and keep those screws handy and don't lose those. Alright, so that pretty much, we're going to call those wings pretty much good to go there. The actual main wings are on Y connectors, which is going to be just fine. If you do choose to run it on your own computer radio, you can actually split up the main wings, and that way you get a more equal amount of travel up as you do down on the ailerons. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the tail section here. We are going to install the tail section. So we will move our main wings there, and we'll grab our tail section. We are now moving on to the installation of the tail section here, the horizontal stabilizer on this Extra 300. Once again, now I'm going to go ahead and grab my cradle once more because we have to screw in the tail section. I'm going to go ahead and flip the Extra here. Make sure that safe there. Okay. There we go. And there goes my manual. So what we're looking for now is your short and the thinner composite, the carbon spar here. And this will be inserted into one half of the tail section here. Just check that. Yep, that looks about right there. And what we will do is insert this into here. That was just a test fit. So that's good. We will now insert the tail section. It just slides into position here, and then we have a guide screw that we will use to screw it back down here. Press real quick. In this section here, we're going to just make sure that the elevator coupler in the center section here lines up. And when it does, we just press. And we got to make sure that the screw hole lines up here. There we go. And get a little bit of this part here. You want it to be a little bit tighter so that it doesn't have a whole lot of play in it here. So this side is good and that side is good. And then we're going to look for the bag that says PA 3.0 and then 15. These are self-tapping screws. There are 3 of them, so one of them is a spare once again. And we will just insert these directly into these holes here. And then you got to make sure that that lines up with that hole down there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and grab the fuselage here and just go ahead and start tightening this down. This screw will be tightened down all the way. Okay, that one is good. And this one is just about there. Okay, so your tail section is on and ready to go. And I can see that this is sparred. Once again, you saw the spar that went in. Okay, so it makes it nice and rigid for the tail section here. All right, so your tail section essentially is now done with this Extra 300 here. And we have nothing left pretty much but to install the main wings and the main wing fairings and move on to radio equipment. We're just about complete with this build here, so you can see how quickly one of these 3D airplanes actually goes together. This is really nice. So far everything has gone without a hitch. Now you're able to kind of get a good look at the top side here, where you can see there's a pretty cool scale pilot in it, and then a scale like a cockpit area with the control panel. And right now we're moving on to the installation of the main wing, and we'll want to locate the bag. I call these the rear wing fairings, or the winglets. Sorry, the manual calls it like fillets. So what they are is they basically just go back here and they fill in the portion of the main wing when it's inserted to the fuselage here. So right now we have to glue these in, so you want to take note. They are directional. One's labeled left and the one's labeled right. So let's go ahead and take a look here and see. Okay, the winglet is actually has a wider side and then has a more narrow side. So we're going to have to, this is for the right, so we're going to have to find out here. Let's take a look and see how this actually will fit in there so that we don't make any mistakes here. Okay, I got it. Okay, perfect. Okay, so basically the wider portion on the right side will be on the bottom, and then the more narrow will be on the top, and then the angle of the back area here will be the same as the wing there. So this part here, it actually says to use a brush or something like that to get glue into that area, and I'm actually not going to do that. We're just going to go ahead and apply the glue directly to the piece itself here. But you want to make sure you don't get glued too far on this corner, this edge here, this flat surface, because if you do that and you install the main wing, you're not going to be able to get your main wing back off because it's going to be stuck to this piece here. So we're just going to apply a little bit of glue right to that area there, and then we're going to just go ahead and I'm going to spin this around so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to insert this right there, and then I'm just going to press. So this piece here will stay glued in. But again, don't put glue on this flat surface here, because if you do so, you won't be able to remove your wings there. Okay, so that side is good. And we're going to go ahead and do, let me get the scissors. There's a little bit of residual foam there. Go ahead and snip that right off. There we go. Let's see, wider side, bottom. Always good to double check. There we go. Yep, that's it. Once more, apply the glue to this piece here. I tend to stop before I get to the front flat portion where I'm saying you don't want any glue, because you will get some glue, the glue to be, it'll actually ooze out to that front portion if you're too close to it. And that is good to go there. So that's done. That's ready to go. And let's see what. Okay, we are now going to connect the main wing, and then go into the radio portion of it, and actually the propellers first. We will use the Y splitter, and let's see here. We're going to go ahead and connect the Y splitter to one wing first. There we go, aileron. Match up the colors. It's good to go. Okay, we're going to get our main wing spar and insert the wing spar into one main wing half. Okay, so that's pretty good there. I'm going to see how much exactly of the spar is going into one wing. There we go. Okay, we will now go to this side. This part here, I'm curious to know what the how it actually bolts down to the fuselage here. I think it bolts down from the bottom with wing bolts here. We're going to make sure that the Y harness clears here. There we go. And don't pull on the wrong side here, because one side has to go down to the middle of the fuselage still. All right, so now we're just going to slide. Everything is out of the way, and we are going to just go ahead and slide. There we go. Make sure the wing clears that winglet back there, and then we're going to press. Perfect. Wow, this goes together so nice. Okay. And on this side, we have your splitter, your Y harness there. We're going to go ahead and plug this in. Colors match. We're looking good. And this part is going to be fun, because we have to route this wire down through this hole here. This part here, again, if you have somebody to help you, it'd probably be a lot easier, because you can route the wire and then have somebody sight it down for you from the front of the canopy area here. Okay. We're going to go ahead and insert the wing first. Give it so it'd be a little bit closer. Okay, there is a hatch on the bottom, so we're going to go ahead and, if you have somebody to help you, it'd be a lot easier. Go ahead and open this hatch. And actually, it's probably be easier if I just set it down here. You can do it the other way as well. You could actually run the wires through this area here and then plug it in when you're actually getting to the wings. There you go. So we're good to go there. Make sure the wire is in the, which it's not. So we have to make sure that the wire is in the channel here. There we go. I was talking about the wire being in the channel. It's just the groove that's cut out underneath the wing here. Okay, looking good. Wires out of the way, so we're going to press. Just like that. Everything is in position. Okay, now I'm going to grab my cradle again here. Flip the extra once again. And there are 4 screw holes inside the fuselage here, and you're looking for the bag that says 3.0 times 60, and these are your main wing bolts, and it looks like there is 1 extra once again. You know what I noticed when as I was putting this thing together is that the front of the cowl is completely open, and then it's actually layered in there to where it's actually going to route the wind right onto the motor for really good cooling there. So that's always a plus on 3D style airplanes. Okay, so we have those screws are down. Grab our screwdriver. I would suggest this portion here, if you had an electric screwdriver, still don't use it, just because they tend to tighten down so quickly and then over tighten by a lot, you know, and we don't want that. So we're just going to go ahead and use our manpower here and tighten these main wing bolts down. So as you can see, this actually makes transportation pretty easy for a 51.5 just about inch extra. Some people, you know, you're going to have to remove the main wings for transportation sometimes if you have a smaller vehicle. So this, you can actually see that it goes together pretty quick once you get the wing section ready here. And then the area here where the receiver is actually going to sit is perfect if you don't want to use the Y harness, if you are using your own computer radio and you can set it up on dual aileron channels for 2 servos, because that way you will be able to adjust your control throws on each side accordingly for an even amount of travel. Let me get that off there a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down. Okay, remember we're pulling into foam here. We don't want to over tighten. Okay, we're going to call that pretty good there. Let's go ahead and flip these beautiful extra here. You know what I noticed is not only is this really pretty, it's really light for being a foam extra. This reminds me a lot of a couple of the airplanes on the market as far as the styling wise, and you know, pretty much ready to go here. It's good elevator throw there. Okay, so now we're going to, okay, that's cool. Learn something new. The cowl is actually magnetic, so it pops right off. And like I was talking about, all this is vented here, so all the motor cooling goes right on there. And since we have it off, I always do a once over on all my planes. Never hurts to go ahead and make sure that the motor is tight to the motor mount, which FMS does a really good job on that anyway. So I don't find any, nope, none of those are loose. Those are ready to go. And we're to the area now where we're going to choose our radio system. You can either use your own radio system, or you could use, you know, if you get it over here as a ready to fly, it'll just be on a straight 4 channel. Again, if you're using your own radio system and you're using like a computer radio, you can actually split up the aileron channels if you choose to. If not, then go ahead and use the Y splitter there, and you're good to go. Go ahead and build your propeller now, which is pretty, you know, I think that's the next step. But notice I always keep the propeller building portion and installing the propeller until absolutely the last thing we do as far as installation of the radio gear, just because we don't want that thing spinning around once we're setting it up, and it's potentially going to be dangerous. So go ahead and grab your spinner and your propeller and build your propeller, and we'll meet you back over here. Now that we have the FMS Extra 300 pretty much ready here, I am using my own JR9503 2.4, and the receiver that I'm using today will be an AR7000. You can get this, as I said, in a ready-to-fly format from Banana Hobby as well if you choose to get the radio with it, because this is just a basic 4-channel here, so you don't need any more than 4 channels. We're pretty much plugged in and ready to go here. So I'm going to grab my cradle once more, because we are going into the servo setup portion, and we want to talk about the connectors here. As you can see, I've made a pretty good mess here, which I'm always pretty good at. Right now, there goes my screwdriver. You want to make sure that you check all your servo directions. But right now, as you can see, it's kind of hard to see just because the servo horns are not on there. And the servo horns, this part I really like. They are, first of all, let's talk about the push rods. The push rods are in individual bags here that are labeled elevator, rudder, and then you have your push rods for your ailerons. That's in another bag. Actually, where did it go? Here it is. And this part is really nice. I'm going to go ahead and empty the bag with the servo horns in it. What these are they're basically called your, I'm going to put these down. They're called easy connectors. These have been around, these have been in the industry for a really long time here. And there's another bag here, my mess here. This bag here will have some extra control clevises in here, and then you have a little 1.5 millimeter Allen key here. So that's what you're going to tighten these with on the easy connectors here. And I'm going to grab I had one here, so let's just go ahead and get this little Allen key out. And this makes adjusting the push rods extremely easy, and makes centering them easy, and it just makes an overall working platform to be a lot easier. Go ahead and check these screws here on the bottom of these easy hinges, and then make sure all of them are tight. So let's go ahead and mount this on here. We want our control horn on the ailerons to be just about 90 degrees or parallel with your ailerons. So once that's on there, let's go ahead and check direction. Okay, looks like that direction is good there. And then let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and apply one screw here. Now let's go ahead and install the servo horn here. Again, this is a 1.5 millimeter set screw here. If you do have some Loctite handy, I always tend to Loctite mine just a little bit, just for safety reasons. It's precautionary. If you don't, you can actually use a little bit of that glue that it's included. Just put a little bit on the thread there, and it just keeps that metal-to-metal surface there from coming loose here. So let's go ahead and install one here, and we have correct movement already, so we're going to install that, and then they are just self-tapping Phillips head screw that goes into the servo. Let's go ahead and use the supplied screwdriver here. Okay, once it gets down to being tight, I grab the servo horn myself physically and then tighten it so you don't strain the servo out when you're tightening it. And then I will also check these screws here. Okay, this is what I'm talking about, the easy connector. First of all, the push rod has a little collar on it. That's just to keep the clevis closed. We're going to pick the most level line here between the push rod and the control surface. So I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to want some good throw out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the second from the bottom hole here, and make sure that the clevis has plenty enough thread in it with the push rod. And then all we're going to do now is insert this into the easy connector, and then you can pretty much use the supplied 1.5 millimeter Allen wrench, or you can use a driver if you have any kind of a tool set here. So I'm going to grab the aileron with my finger and pinch it there, and that way you know it's flat. Okay, we're going to tighten the 1.5 millimeter set screw until it grabs the push rod, and then we can actually take a look. And it looks like it's about right, so we can go ahead and just grab the push rod and the servo horn here, and then now go ahead and tighten down this this set screw here. There you go. And now we have control surface throw. That looks about level. And you're pretty much going to do this with the rest of the 3 control surfaces. On the rudder section here and let me take a look here, and the elevator section, there are 3 holes instead of 4, so we will be using the middle hole. So now go ahead and get your control surface, the control surface push rods and the servo horns installed, and we'll meet you back over here. Now that we have the push rods installed already, we're ready to install your propeller here. Make sure that everything's disconnected and it's off before you go ahead and put the propeller on there. And of course, while you have it off, check the direction of the motor first to make sure the motor is going in the correct direction. This is a 13x5 3-bladed propeller, and it basically, we have the individual blades already mounted to the base plate, so we just slide this on there, line it up, and then this is the prop cover. This will go right over the main nut area there, and believe it or not, this is just actually screwed down by hand. And the reason why is there won't be much torque effect because the way the direction of the propeller is spinning in counterclockwise, it actually is spinning against the thread, so it's actually, you know, it won't come loose. But definitely grab it and tighten it down the best you can with your hand. And that's pretty good there. Okay, so your prop is on, and everything is pretty much set up, ready to go. I have this set up on my 9303. Let's go ahead and power her on here. And then this portion, we're pretty much calling this the conclusion here. Okay. Those initializing tones tells us the airplane is ready to go. The battery area, the manual said it's a 4S 3300 size. And I believe you could play with the CG a little bit between 2500 if you want to use a 2500 4S and up to 3600 4S, depending on what style of flying you're going to do. But so far, the overall weight, it's pretty light. And I'm going to actually play with a couple of different sizes when we get into the flying portion of the video and see what actually I like better as far as the battery and the CG location. So let's go ahead and check our control surfaces. Ailerons are good. Elevator's good. Rudder is good. And this is set up right now on 100% rates. I will go ahead and set up my dual rates once I get to the field and fine-tune it a little bit more and then get some more control surface throw and things like that out of it. And again, with you out there, you're going to want to tailor this to how you would like to fly it. This is a lot of rates for such big ailerons, and we definitely know that this is going to roll pretty fast, and we're going to use Expo and things like that. But if you set it up with the supplied radio system, if you choose to get one, then you're just going to be actually moving the control, the holes to the outer holes farthest away from the control surface and in on your servo arm to lessen the throw. And you can tailor it that way as well. So let's go ahead and give it a little power here. Sounds good, lots of power. And that will complete your build of the 51.2-inch, 1,300 millimeter FMS Extra 300. What a good looking 3D airplane. Make sure you check out the other videos that are coming with the Yak 54 and the SBOC 342. And my name is Pete. Thank you all always for your support. Please like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe here as well. If you have any comments, go ahead and post them underneath. And we'll see you next time with a different build review.